Hey everyone, welcome to the Gilbert.K show. From Mahavishnu Orchestra keyboardist and jazz fusion trailblazer to composing for the 15-time Emmy-winning TV show, The Amazing Race, and 2014 Leo Award winner for Chai, Stu Goldberg brings a legacy of musical brilliance to film, TV, concert halls, and now to us. Let's give a big welcome to the one and only Stu Goldberg.
Hey Stu, how are you today?
Good morning, or afternoon, actually, Gilbert. How are you?
Good. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Let's move on to our first segment. It's origins and early inspirations. At just 17, you were a featured keyboard soloist at the Monterey Jazz Festival. How did that early experience shape your musical journey and influence your transition into film composition?
Okay, that's a loaded question. Yeah, I was very interested in playing jazz at a young age, and I started piano at the age of 10, and I was playing in a band at the age of 11, and I was playing all over town, and I would wear a big hat to cover myself to pretend that I was over 21, because in those days you couldn't play in clubs if you were underage.
Yeah.
And I used to play all over town. I grew up in Seattle, born in Boston, grew up in Seattle. Played all over town, and I attended a jazz workshop camp when I was 15, I think it was, in the University of Washington in Seattle. And at that camp, I met several educators. One of them was the head of the music department at the University of Utah, Dr. William Fowler, famous guitar educator, and with a fabulously talented children. All five of his sons are amazing musicians. In any case, I met him at that workshop that was, I think, a week long when I think I was 15. And I kept in touch with him, and he asked me to send him a tape of my work. So I played some piano, whatever, in a little old tape recorder, sent him a thing, and he was knocked out by my tape. He played it for Jimmy Lyons, who was the founder of the Monterey Jazz Festival.
Wow.
And he flipped out about it, and he built a whole concert segment based on me.
Yeah.
And at the time I was 17 by then, and he featured me and several other young musicians who were very talented. One of the Fowler brothers, Walt Fowler, played trumpet, and incredibly talented tenor sax player, Albert Wing. All of us were in our teens. And then Ray Brown played bass, and Louis Belson played drums.
Wow.
So it was really, really fun. So we played at Monterey. I think we played 3 pieces, something. The whole segment was maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes, but it was a nice launching point for my career. And Dr. Fowler from the University of Utah actually got me a scholarship to study there.
Wow. That's amazing.
So I went straight from the concert, which was in early September, to University of Utah.
That's amazing. And your family, your parents, they were in music or
No. My father was a psychoanalyst, and my mother who's still living. She's 96 now in a nursing home in Seattle. She was a painter, an artist. But both my parents were very musical. They didn't play. My father dabbled as a teenager on drums and bugle and some different things, but neither really ever played an instrument. But they were both very musical, and they were very supportive of my musical aspirations.
That's amazing. So growing up in Seattle, how did the local music scene and your early environment influence your musical style and aspirations?
Well, tremendously. I mean, Seattle was and is a hotbed of creativity for whatever reason. I mean, even going back to the Native American times.
Yeah.
The northern northwestern Native American tribes had the most leisure time of any in the whole of any of them, because there were so many natural resources. They could just go down to the beach and pick up clams and whatever, the fishing. So they didn't have to cultivate crops. They didn't have to go out and go hunting. They didn't, so they had all this time to do artwork and build things and do things, fun things, and continuing. I don't know if it has any relation to that, but when Seattle became white people and became a city, there's so much creativity in that city. It was, I mean, Jimi Hendrix was from there. Quincy Jones was had his formative years there. So many wonderful musicians came up through Seattle. So at the time that I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, it was just a hotbed of creativity. They had a couple jazz clubs, and famous people from all over the world would come and perform. And I was way too young. I was underage, but I would go at 13 or 14, I would go stand outside the door and listen through the door.
Wow.
You know, Coltrane played there, and a lot of people played there. It was incredible. And I found a very inspiring piano teacher. I think I was 15 at the time. I think he's still living, but he's kind of a recluse. He's not on the scene anymore. Jerry Gray.
Yeah.
Incredible musician. And at the time that I met him, he had retired from any public performance whatsoever. He was only practicing 20 hours a day, practicing piano 20 hours a day, and teaching. Wow. And he was an absolute disciplinarian and a brilliant musician and a brilliant teacher. So I had the good fortune to study with him. And years before, the guitarist Larry Coryell had studied with him when Larry was in Seattle.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a nice connection. And later on my first solo album, I had Larry Coryell come and play with me. So it was kind of a full circle moment that was really nice for me.
That's amazing. So at what age did you start playing? Like, and how did you know that you like music? Was it part of the school program or?
Well, there was a school program, and I started trombone in public school at the age of 9.
Okay.
And my teacher was a violist from the Seattle Symphony. I don't know that she never once demonstrated, but somehow she taught me how to play trombone without even ever putting one to her mouth. I don't know how that happened, but anyway, I did have some exposure to music in public school, but it was mainly through the exposure of my parents listening to a lot of records, hearing the music, being exposed to live concerts, and wanting to go out and do it myself. And that's how I got into it.
Wow, that's amazing. So you graduated from magna cum laude in composition and piano from University of Utah is impressive. How did your academic training contribute to your versatility across genres?
Well, that's hard. It's hard to quantify.
Yeah.
I mean, in school, I studied orchestration, I studied composition, I studied counterpoint, I studied history of music, different things like that. Yeah. And at the same time, I had my own band. I had an 11-piece band with members of the Fowler family, who I told you about.
Yeah.
Wonderful musicians, incredible family, and other musicians. And I wrote a lot of music for that band. I probably had 35 original compositions for that band, and we played all over the place. So I had an active musical life outside of school, even at that time. But during school, I mean, how it prepared me in the sense that I do have some academic training, which came in very handy when I went to Hollywood later and wanted to be starting in film composition. You know, I felt comfortable orchestrating, working with orchestras and various instruments and that type of thing, styles of music.
Yeah, because you have the background and
that's
the
right.
foundation. That's amazing. So our next segment is the jazz fusion era. You joined the Mahavishnu Orchestra during a pivotal time. Can you share insights into that experience and how it challenged you as a musician?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was, I mean, I was very, very fortunate to come up in a time when there was opportunity like that. There isn't much anymore. There isn't as much live music these days for young musicians coming up as there was for me in the 70s. Yeah. So going back, I was still in the University of Utah. I had my band that we used to perform that had some of the Fowler brothers in it. And 2 of the Fowler brothers had left our band in the school and joined Frank Zappa's band in Los Angeles. And they were touring all over the world. That's Tom Fowler, the bassist, and Bruce Fowler, the trombonist.
Yeah.
And Bruce Fowler went on to be one of the biggest orchestrators in Hollywood. He orchestrates maybe 250. I mean, you look at his IMDb credits. The guy has so many huge. He's been doing everything for Hans Zimmer for 30 years.
Yeah.
From The Lion King all the way up till now. He's an incredible orchestrator, a brilliant trombonist, Anyway, he was in our band in college, and he went on to play with Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa's band was touring the United States. They came to Salt Lake City, where our university was. So I promoted a concert of our band, and I put it on in the afternoon so the musicians could come from Frank Zappa's band. They all came to the concert, and it was a wonderful exposure. And I met George Duke, the wonderful, he's no longer with us, but a wonderful keyboard player, brilliant guy. And he was so gracious and so generous to me. And he liked what I was doing. He said, if you ever come to LA, look me up.
Yeah.
So the next year I graduated, I moved to LA, and I called him up. I said, well, here I am.
Wow.
I want to let you know I'm in town and I'm looking for things. And I didn't hear from him.
Yeah.
He welcomed me to town, and I gave him my phone number, and I didn't hear from him. And I was working 6 nights a week in various hotels and wherever I could to play music and earn a living. And during the day, I was driving all over town to rehearsal bands and whatever I could do to do creative things. One night I came back from my 6-night-a-week gig in a hotel in Anaheim, and I was living in Santa Monica, and on my phone machine there was a message from John McLaughlin, who I had never met, and I had no way to meet. And he called me, left a message. I got it at 3 a.m, and he said, hi, it's John McLaughlin. George Duke gave me your number, and I'm looking for a keyboard player. Wonderful keyboard player Gail Moran had been in his band, the Mahavishnu Orchestra, and they just recorded an album with Michael Tilson Thomas conducting the London Symphony, and George Martin from the Beatles produced it. And they were out promoting that album. And Gail Moran wanted to leave that band, and she started a relationship with Chick Corea. And so she left the band, and he needed a keyboard player quick. So he called George Duke, and George Duke recommended me and I guess several other people. So John gave me his phone number, and he said, I'm looking for a keyboard player. So it's 3 a.m, and I'm like 19 years old. You know, when should I call him back? And so like an idiot, I called him at 7 a.m. because I didn't want to miss him. You know, that's an ungodly hour for most musicians to call them at 7 a.m. But he happened to be awake because he was into Indian meditation and all that. So he'd been up since 5 a.m. So that was the middle of the day for him. Oh, great! You're calling me. Perfect time. Yeah, I'll come out and see you. He had a rental car. I gave him directions to my little duplex in Santa Monica. He came. I played some piano. I played electric piano. I played some Moog synthesizer. And of all the things I did, he seemed the most interested in my library. And he was looking at the books in my library. And he noticed that I had a book from Paramhansa Yogananda, the autobiography of a yogi. Oh, you're interested in Oriental thinking in it. And I said, yeah, I am actually. And he was very impressed, seemed to be more impressed with that than with my music, but I couldn't tell. I played him my first album that I'd already made and produced by the great Oliver Nelson. And it was a wonderful album. And he seemed impressed, but I couldn't tell. And he said, well, I got a lot to do, a lot of people to meet. Thank you very much. And he took off. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And a day later, I got a call from his manager in New York. We booked a flight for you. Get to the airport right now. We're rehearsing for 2 weeks and going on the road opposite Jeff Beck for 3 months.
Wow!
And
amazing.
that was my entree into the big time.
Wow! And you didn't have an agent at that time, right?
Oh, no agent. I was 19. I mean, I didn't have anything. I just had desire.
You had. That's great. So touring and recording with artists like Wayne Shorter and Al Di Meola must have been transformative. What were some stand-up moments or lessons from those collaborations?
Well, with Al Di Meola, it's a funny story. This was after Mahavishnu. Well, I did Mahavishnu for a year, and then John McLaughlin decided, like he always does, he wanted to try something different. And he wanted to not play electric guitar anymore. He was going to play acoustic guitar with Indian musicians from India and do a band called Shakti, which was very successful. But the CBS, the record label, hated the idea because they were making a lot of money on him as the guitar god. And now he wanted to turn off the amplifier and just do acoustic music. And you know, it was very foreign to them in so many ways, and they didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they, anyway, John ended the band at that time. And I got a call from someone else, another musician, to remain nameless, who flew me to New York to rehearse and record an album. And we did 2 weeks of rehearsal and 1 gig, and then he said the whole deal was canceled.
Oh, wow.
And he wouldn't pay my trip back. So I was stuck in January in New York. It's one of these cold Januaries where everything's frozen, and the same pile of frozen dog poo from 3 weeks ago is still sitting there 3 weeks later. It was so cold. Anyway,
Wow.
I'm there. I'm with my mini Moog going up and down the street, sitting in wherever I could and trying to get a gig so I could earn my way back home. And anyway, I got an audition with Al Di Meola, and what happened was CBS lost John McLaughlin as their big electric guitar god.
Yeah.
And they needed someone to fill his shoes, so to speak. So they anointed Al Di Meola as the next big shot.
Yeah.
And he got through that deal. He got a big manager, the manager of Bruce Springsteen at the time, and it was a big deal for him. And they spent a fortune trying to launch his career.
Wow.
So he had unlimited studio time at a rehearsal studio in New York. So I somehow got an audition. I went to the thing. I read his music perfectly, did everything great, and then I didn't hear from him. Yeah. And he was auditioning, I guess, for 3 weeks. He auditioned keyboard players over and over. And I think I got called back twice. And finally, on the 3rd time, I got the gig.
Wow.
So, and the gig was a 3-month tour opposite the band Weather Report in the United States and Canada.
Yeah.
And Weather Report had just released their biggest selling album called Heavy Weather. And it was Wayne Shorter, Joe Zawinul, and Jaco Pastorius was in the band, and Alex Acuna and Manolo on percussion. In any case, incredible band. And so I got to hear them every night. It was super exciting, and hang out with the guys and hang out with Jaco, who was a real character.
Yeah.
And hang out with Joe Zawinul. It was great. So you asked me about Wayne Shorter. Later, when I moved back to Los Angeles after living in Europe for 10 years, I moved back to Los Angeles in 1985.
Yeah.
And I don't know when this was, 89 or 90. I got a call from Wayne Shorter, and he was making an album, and he wanted my help to program some things and do some keyboards on his album.
Yeah.
So he spent a week in my house, in my studio.
Wow.
I was living in Thousand Oaks, California at the time. So I hung out with Wayne for an entire week, and then I rehearsed a few days in his house, and then we recorded at the Mad Hatter studio, which was Chick Corea's old studio in Los Feliz area of Los Angeles. Super exciting. It was great.
Yeah.
The album Phantom Navigator of Wayne Shorter. And a funny story on that album, I had sampled my son, Greg, who was 5 years old at the time. I'd sampled him and made a choir out of him singing. And we used it on the album. Yeah. And Wayne gave my son an album credit. so that was
That's
fun.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So your solo albums, such Eye of the Beholder, showcase a unique blend of styles. What was your creative process behind these works?
Well, let's see. I had a deal with a German record label, MPS. Mm-hmm. Wonderful label. And the wonderful owner was a huge music fan, a huge piano fan. Hans-Georg Brunnerschwer lived in the Black Forest. So he called this his company Musik Production Schwarzwald, which is a music production of the Black Forest. Okay. And he was a chemical engineer at BASF, and he was a fanatic for studio recordings, and he had all kinds of exotic microphones, and he built a home studio way back in the 60s and the 70s, and he had wonderful studio. He made legendary recordings of piano players, including Oscar Peterson. Some of his most amazing piano works were recorded in his studio on his piano.
Yeah.
So I got a producer who's no longer with us, Joachim Behrendt from Germany. He kind of discovered me. I was playing jazz festivals in Germany, and I was playing with a band led by Alphonse Mouzon, the drummer, who's also no longer with us, sadly. And so this Joachim Behrendt discovered me, said he wanted to make a record with me.
Yeah.
And then he heard me play in Rotterdam festival in Holland with Larry Coryell. We did a duo. And he was flipped out, and he says, you got to have Larry on the album. And then I got a wonderful violinist from India, L. Subramaniam. He played on the album. So we did a kind of an East-West thing. My first solo album, it's called Solos, Duos, Trio on MPS Records. So I ended up doing 4 records for them. My second one was a solo piano record that I produced.
Yeah.
And the third one was Eye of the Beholder that you asked about. And
Yeah.
Eye of the Beholder I did in LA. And I wanted to branch out because I just done a solo piano album. So now I wanted to try a larger instrumental palette. So I had a jazz trio, actually a quartet with percussion, drums, bass, and piano. And I added my brother Kenny on saxophone and flute, and then a string quartet. So it was quite a large ensemble for that time on that label with that kind of budget.
Yeah.
And I was able to write really cool arrangements using the strings and all the instruments, and it was quite ambitious. Yeah, I was really proud of that album. They digitally re-released it a few years ago on CD. It was an LP from 1980.
Wow.
And they re-released it, I think, 3 years ago as a CD.
That's great. Okay, we're going to take a break right now, and we're going to play a game, This or That. And it's a rapid fire game where in this game, you'll need to choose 1 or 2 options as quickly as possible. Stu, are you ready?
Let's go, baby.
Okay. Analog synthesizer or digital plugins?
Probably digital plugin.
Live performance or studio recording?
Live performance.
Jazz improv or structured composition?
Both.
Scoring for film or scoring for TV?
Both.
Morning composing or late night sessions?
Morning.
Acoustic piano or electric keyboard?
Acoustic.
Collaborating with artists or solo projects?
Both.
Classical influences or modern inspirations?
Oh, both.
Touring internationally or local performance?
Well, internationally includes local performance, so I would say both. But
Both,
of course, I want internationally. Great.
Yeah. Writing for orchestra or small ensemble?
Both.
Both. Okay. Let's move on to the. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I hedged my bets on almost all of those questions, but
No,
because they were all good things. I don't want to leave anything out.
No, that's fine. That's a great answer. That's fine. Let's move on to the next segment, which is transition to film and TV. Composing for a dynamic show like The Amazing Race requires capturing diverse cultures and high energy. How did you approach this challenge?
Well, it was you left out the most important part of composing for The Amazing Race. I had, I think, 5 days per episode. It was an hour-long show, wall-to-wall music, and I had maybe 5 days because everything had to be approved by the producers, and then I had to make changes. So I maybe had 3 days to write and then 2 days of making changes. And it was, in essence, a travel log. I did the first season of the show, and the episodes I did were like in Thailand, and where else did they? I don't remember anymore. But in any case, I had to incorporate some of the local flavor of where they were going into the score, and it still had to, they insisted that everything had to be larger than life musically. I had to make every moment when they're catching a taxi or running to an airport or something, it had to be the most important thing that you ever seen in your life. So the music had to be pumped up all the time, wall to wall for an hour.
Wow.
So it was a challenge to write that many notes and to get them approved and to make whatever changes they wanted and get the whole thing approved and delivered on time. And so I learned through that show, well, and many others that I did, to write under pressure and deliver and make the deadlines, because that TV is all about deadlines.
That's true. Wow. I didn't realize that. Wow. You've incorporated all 15 types of indigenous drums into your compositions. How do these instruments enhance storytelling in film and TV?
Oh, well, I mean, percussion is probably the first instrument that man ever invented. You know, hitting two rocks together, or banging on a tree, percussion is, you know, it imitates the heartbeat. It percussion is life, and I'm a drumaholic. So I love percussion. I love drums. It was like 30 years ago now. My wife bought me an African drum, a djembe, and I touched this thing, and something came alive in me, like some tribal thing from generations ago. I became this connected to some spirit of from thousands of years ago, and I got into this tribal thing. And since then, I've got a whole collection of hand percussion. I'm like super into it. I studied seriously classical tabla for 3 years with a wonderful teacher in Los Angeles. I mean, I love drums and percussion. So how do they contribute to the storytelling of the movies? I don't care.
Yeah.
I love them. And people relate to percussion. And like I say, it's our heartbeat is percussion. Everything in our life is governed by the pulse and the cadence of the heartbeat. And when you walk, it's a rhythm, and anything you do in life is rhythmical. Yeah. So percussion is just a natural expression of life. Wow. So there isn't any show I ever do that doesn't have some kind of percussion in it.
Yeah, that's great. Just curious, how many instruments do you play?
I don't know. I don't count. I mean, with synthesizers and sampling, I play every instrument.
Of course, yeah.
And I'm very big into breath control. I have a custom breath controlled controller where I can make amazing gestures, musical gestures that you can't do from just a keyboard, where you just hit a note and it turns on. And you know, with breath control, I can swell or decrescendo, and I can have phrasing and things that after the note is hit, like a wind instrument can do. Yeah. So I'm really into that. I play hundreds of instruments.
Yeah. Great. So participating in sessions for Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade under John Williams' direction is notable. What was that experience like?
It was probably the high point of my LA studio career. Yeah. We came back to Los Angeles in 1985 after I was touring and living in Europe and touring for 10 years, and a little longer than 10 years. And I wanted to, I had 3 kids. I wanted to raise a family and not be gone 200 days a year. Yeah. And I said, what can I do in music where I don't have to change? I mean, I don't have to totally leave my life as a musician. Yeah. What can I do and still be home to raise my kids? Mm-hmm. And I said, I can become a film composer. I know how to write music. I went to school, I'm a composer, and I thought it would be easy. So we moved to Los Angeles, and I realized how difficult it was. And nobody wanted me there. Nobody wanted another musician. And I realized there's, in any given orchestra recording the music for a movie, there's maybe 100 musicians, and there's only one composer.
That's true.
So I say my odds are better if I become one of the 100 musicians, and I can become a composer sometime later, So I became a studio musician. Yeah. So for 10 years, I worked mainly in the studios. Wow. And, I became really good at programming synthesizers, which at the time had become digital. Some of the first digital synthesizers had come out in the 80s, and I'd learned how to program and make sounds and all this stuff. So I became a specialist, and I had one of the first MIDI studios in Los Angeles, and I could do huge scores for composers and make huge, big, very complex scores at home with all this MIDI stuff and sequences, and make it sound like hundreds of musicians, and it was only done by me. Yeah. And I became an expert at that. So I had a side career. I was a studio musician by day and a MIDI synthesis composer's assistant by night, and I became a ghostwriter. And I was ghostwriting for like 8 years. I was a ghostwriter, and I would write in everybody. I had to learn how to write in everybody's style so that it was indistinguishable from the. Anyway, it was great. Yeah. And during that time, as a session player, I got the call, and I had not met him before, and the contractor recommended me I got the call to play on the Indiana Jones movie as a synthesist and keyboard player.
Wow.
And I did the whole thing. It was, I think, a week in the studio, double sessions, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 double sessions. And I got to work every day with John Williams, and it was an absolute college level course in how to write for orchestra and how to produce a score for a movie. Incredible. Spielberg and George Lucas were there every day. John Williams was there in all his glory. And a lot of the cues that he wrote, I didn't have to play on, and I was free to circulate among the sections of the orchestra and see and hear how he wrote for the different sections. It was so it was so amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned so many things that week. It was incredible. So it was a really important moment for me. That score.
That's very inspiring. We're going to move on to the next segment, creative philosophy and recent work. Your recent 27-minute concerto for guitar and orchestra is significant work. What inspired this composition, and how does it reflect your evolution as a composer?
Okay, that's a loaded question.
All right.
So there's a wonderful guitarist here where I live in the Okanagan Valley, William Leggett, and he commissioned this work from me. And he had aspirations to be a composer himself. He wanted my help. He wanted me to write most of it, but he wanted me to use some themes of his, as many as possible. So I told him to bring whatever he had. We spent a few days in preparation before I actually started writing. Yeah. So he brought me like 100 sheets of music all over the place, scribbled and backwards and upside down and ripped and who knows what. And I went through the 100 pages of music and found 2 or 3 themes that I thought might be workable in some way or another way. And I took that and I adapted it and added a whole bunch of themes of my own and made a major work out of it, featuring him on guitar.
Yeah.
And I did the orchestra in MIDI because we had no budget. And I recorded him on his guitar acoustically with the MIDI. It turned out really, really well. And that's what that was about. And then I titled it Concierto del Sol, the Concerto of the Sun. Spanish because it's a Spanish guitar, so I'm really proud of it. It turned out great.
That's great. So how do you navigate the creative difference between composing for jazz performance and scoring for visual media?
I don't. It's all music to me. Okay. I mean, obviously, when you're writing for film and TV, it's more of a collaboration than if you're just on your own writing whatever you want for your ensemble. Mm-hmm. You don't have to collaborate. You don't have to ask for approvals for anything. So it's different in that sense. Working in a film is being a team member when there's maybe 200 members and there's maybe 3 or 4 people that are making the decisions that you have to approve. And now with MIDI and with computers and all this stuff, it's become more and more necessary to get every single piece of music approved by a whole team of people before they allow you to submit it with the movie, to deliver it with the movie. It gets incredibly complicated. So my mock-ups have to sound amazing. I mean, I have to polish it before it's even fully composed. And so in that sense, writing for film is more. I have to take every idea and make it sound really, really good, even if it's a bad idea. Before and get it past this gauntlet of producers and directors before I'm allowed to do what I really want to do.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference between writing for a jazz ensemble where I'm just writing whatever I want.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's the same because I'm still creating music and I still have to do the expression that I feel in my heart. I have to put as much of myself into everything I do, regardless of the size of the team who's criticizing me. I still have to feel like I'm proud of what I'm doing.
Yeah, of course. So in terms of process, does visual trigger some kind of music for you versus like if you compose a jazz song, or what's the difference in terms of process for you?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm composing jazz songs, so to say, I don't write, there's no story behind it.
Yeah.
It's just abstract music for music's sake. obviously when I'm scoring a movie, every scene has a significance. The emotional arc of the characters and the emotional arc of the story has to be supported by the music. So it's a very different set of assignments that I have to, a completely different mindset.
Yeah, yeah.
In that sense.
That's amazing. So with advancements in music technology, how has your approach to composing and producing music changed over the years?
Well, incredible. I mean, nowadays with computers and MIDI and all the virtual instruments, which you asked me about earlier, I mean, I have an arsenal of thousands of instruments in a moment's notice, all loaded at once.
Yeah.
You know, I've got 3 different computers all completely loaded to the gills with extra memory and extra samples and all this kind of stuff. I've got so many sounds in my palette that are available at all times.
Yeah.
So the choices I have to make is more of what not to use than what to use, because I've got way too many colors. So I have to narrow it down. So you know, I have to choose a very narrow set of colors to create the palette of the storytelling that I'm going to do for this particular movie.
Yeah.
And that's part of the art, is setting the tone, setting the sound universe for that particular project.
Yeah.
And the technology these days, all the advancements help me to do that very swiftly.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about AIs too?
I'm not a fan. I mean, of course it's amazing. It's amazing you can write a prompt into ChatGPT and it'll write a book for you in 10 seconds. I mean, it's unbelievable. Of course, and some of it might even be good. Yeah. It's kind of scary, and visually, it's you know, the generative AI. What you can do in visual media is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And now they have generative AI for movies, which they're using in pre-visualization, and some people even create. I mean, I think you can now do 30-second clips, or I don't know. It keeps going up.
Yeah.
You know, I have a son who's very talented, and he's like completely gung-ho pro AI, and he's making horror movies in AI and creating characters and doing, you know,
oh my God,
stringing together these 30-second clips and making a whole movie. Yeah. I mean, the technological capacity is limitless, and it keeps getting better. And of course, I'm impressed with the technology.
Yeah.
But ethically, I'm not impressed. There's an ethical dilemma I have in all these images. When you create characters in AI, they have to come from somewhere. I don't think the computer's just making it up.
Yeah.
They've maybe taken an amalgam of various real people, a nose from one guy, an ear from one guy, or whatever, and putting it. It has to come from somewhere. That's so true. It's not really just created out of thin air like people think. There's an ethical dilemma that I have with it, and the musical AI is behind. So far, it seems to me, is behind the visual and the writing, the spoken word part. I think the music part is which I'm happy for, but there's no reason why they can't put out an AI that's going to create the next film score, and I'm going to hate that.
Of course, of course.
And I can't believe that AI will ever be able to have the emotion and the nuance.
That's true.
And the customized, you know, the phrasing that a human will do. It's one thing to be technologically advanced, and it's another thing to be emotionally pure and advanced. I just don't think it'll ever be. I don't think we should expect that of AI, to be honest. It's an amazing tool. I mean, I love all these programs that can take your photos and that are pixelated and make them sharp and all that. Yeah. And they can make the movie sharp, and like I said, you can write a whole screenplay with a prompt. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. But I have an ethical dilemma with AI. Is the answer.
Okay, we're gonna take a break and we're gonna play a game, True or False, and it's time to test some quirky facts about your life and career. Are you ready, Stu?
Sure.
Okay, you won the Washington, true or false? You won the Washington State Composition Award at age 15.
True.
True or false? You played over 15 types of indigenous drums.
Well, yeah, sure, true.
True or false? The Amazing Race was your first TV scoring project.
False.
True or false? You performed at the Monterey Jazz Festival at age 17.
Yeah, you asked me that
told
before.
me that, yeah.
True.
Concierto del Sol is your first orchestral composition.
False.
You've released over 10 solo albums.
True.
And you've worked with John Williams on film scores.
Yes, sir.
And finally, here's our final segment, reflections and advice. Looking back, what achievements are you most proud of and why?
You know, I'm proud of everything I've done. It's all part of me. So I can't say I'm more proud of one thing than another. I mean, it's my life. It's what I've done. These are all my children. All my scores are my babies. So I'm proud of all of them.
Yeah. And what guidance would you offer to emerging musicians aiming to diversify their careers across performance and composition?
Make sure you have a fallback. Because it's a tough business. Super tough. Having nothing to do with talent or skill or ability. It's just a really tough business. A lot of the things that determine your success, you have no control over.
Mm-hmm.
Who you might meet and what they might think of you and all this kind of stuff is like the luck of the draw a lot of times. So yeah, find ways to have an alternative income, I'd say.
Yeah. Is there a place where people, like, do you recommend any place for people to network? Like, probably in different countries are different. And do you recommend to have an agent, or what do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's essential as a composer to have an agent. It's not easy to get a good one. And until your career is advanced enough that you need an agent, you're not going to get one.
Yeah.
And you probably don't need one. So the agents will come to you when it's time. And that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
So
you need to build your portfolio first.
You need to build your portfolio. You need to have diversity. You need to be versatile. You have to have lots of different styles.
Yeah.
You have to show competency I mean, you have to be able to write everything from Mozart to hip hop and everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to do it within 10 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any upcoming projects or collaborations that you're particularly excited about?
Not in particular. I'm a freelancer, so I'm just working all the time, doing all kinds of different things. Right now, I'm working on a documentary of an American painter, Arnold Freeberg.
Yeah.
And he was kind of a religious portrait artist and a painter, and he painted patriotic scenes. He painted Canadian Mounties.
Yeah.
He painted some of his most famous paintings were used as pre-visualization for the movie The Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
He painted some of the matte paintings that were used in the backgrounds, and he did the costume. I mean, he's quite an inspiring guy. So I'm doing a documentary about his life.
Wow.
That's the most recent project.
That's amazing. And how can our audience connect with you?
They can go to my website, StuGoldberg.com.
Okay.
And I'm easy to find.
That's great. We're nearing the end, Stu, of the show. That's all, folks. Stu Goldberg, everyone. Thank you, Stu.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.